Welcome to the Little Traverse Bay Humane Society annual meeting. This is obviously not the way we normally do our annual meetings, which are held in person, but this is an odd and strange time, as all of you know, and so we are holding our annual meeting on Zoom this year. I am Gail Mraskowski, the president of the Little Traverse Bay Humane Society Board of Directors, and I will lead this meeting today. Also present are Lori Jodar, our vice chair of the Little Traverse Bay Humane Society Board of Directors, as well as Bill McKinley, the treasurer of our board. Danielle Blasco and Chelsea Healy from our staff are also present, and I will introduce them a little bit later. I wanted to remind all of you that the mission statement of the Little Traverse Bay Humane Society is that we are a donor-funded, nonprofit corporation that offers a temporary home to companion animals. And that as a no-kill shelter, our mission is to offer warm shelter, veterinary services, and personal attention to all the animals in our care, as well as proactive methods to control the pet overpopulation. The Little Traverse Bay Humane Society is committed to educating the public about the humane treatment of companion animals. Our organization is led by a staff and board of dedicated animal lovers, willing to work tirelessly to improve the lives of our four-legged friends. Our top priority is to care for the animals who need us the most, and there have been many, many this past year, which you will hear about. So I will start by calling the meeting to order, and I will need a motion to do so. Is there a motion to call the meeting to order?
So moved.
Thank you, Bill. Is there a support?
Support.
Thank you, Lori. The meeting is now called to order. As I mentioned previously, our board members present are Lori Jodar and Bill McKinley. We don't have any visitors present, obviously, because we're doing this via Zoom, but our staff present are Danielle Blasco, our new executive director this year, and Chelsea Healy, our director of finance and administration. So let's begin by confirming our quorum, which is the next item on the agenda. So as I welcome all of you to our meeting, I am going to start out by asking if there are members present who have not previously voted, if they need to raise their voting card. So we do not have anyone in person for voting who have not previously voted. So Lori, do we have a quorum for the meeting?
Yes, Gail, we do have a quorum for the meeting. There are no members present in person, but we do have 106 members present by proxy. Under our bylaws, we need 77 members present in person or by proxy, and we exceed that number.
Thank you very much. So the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes for the annual meeting of 2019, which was obviously held in June of last year. Those minutes have been posted on the website, and the board of directors recommends approval to our members or from our members for these minutes. So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Lori. Or Gail, I'm sorry.
That's okay, and that's Bill McKinley. And is there a second to the motion?
There is a second. I support.
Thank you, Lori. Is there any discussion? Obviously, we have no in-person votes. Lori, do you have the number of members voting by proxy who approve these minutes?
Gail, for the record, you are the holder of proxies for 106 members who have voted for approval of the minutes for the annual meeting. Minutes of 2019, excuse me. Gail, how do you cast your vote for the proxies you hold?
Thank you. For the 106 members whose proxies I hold, I vote for approval of the annual meeting minutes of 2019. Are there any opposed? If not, the motion carries. So we have a total of 106 members who have voted for approval by proxy. The next item on the agenda is the election of directors, which we do every year. And our nominating committee has proposed a slate of one director for election, re-election for this next term. And that individual who currently serves on your board, Becky Phillip Kranig, whose term would be from 2020 to 2023. Under the bylaws, any other nominee proposed for consideration must have been submitted at least 45 days prior to this meeting. Lori, were there any other nominations submitted?
No other nominations have been submitted, Gail.
Okay, thank you. So is there a motion to elect Becky Phillip Kranig for the term of 2020 to 2023?
So moved.
Thank you, Bill. Is there a second to the motion?
I support.
Thank you, Lori. Is there any discussion? Therefore, because we have no in-person votes, Lori, do you have the number of members voting by proxy?
For the record, you are the holder of proxies for 106 members who have voted for approval of the motion to approve the election of Becky Phillip Kranig for the term of 2020 to 2023. Gail, how do you cast your vote for the proxies you hold?
For the 106 members whose proxies I hold, I vote for the approval of the election of Becky Phillip Kranig for the term of 2020 to 2023. Are there any opposed? It appears that the ayes have it for Becky Phillip Kranig and that she has been elected for the term specified. I would really like to congratulate Becky for another term on the board. She's a fabulous director for us and is certainly a very dedicated individual who serves on a variety of committees, and also, of course, personally an animal lover, as we all are. We'll move now into our PowerPoint presentation. And I just have a very brief president's report, brief comments, because Bill will be quite specific about our financial picture, which I know many of you are interested in. And Danielle is going to share with you her overview of the year and some descriptions of our outreach and involvement programs. So let's move to the next slide. Danielle, oh, thank you so much. So the first and foremost thing on my agenda today with the President's Report is to introduce you to our fabulous new director, Danielle Blasco. And if you have not had the opportunity to meet her, I would very much encourage you to come and stop by the office. We have staff all in the office now, and talk to her and get a sense of who she is. As all of you are aware, Danielle came into our organization, actually, I believe it was January 6th of this year, and who could have possibly known what was all going to happen starting January 6th. Danielle came and had very large shoes to fill, as our capable director of 20 years, Dieter Racine, had recently decided to retire from the organization. Danielle hailed from the Michigan Humane Society, among other capable and comparable jobs that had been held in the past. She is personally very strongly committed to animals, very much an animal lover, and a very caring, organized, and steadfast executive director for us. I would also like to remind you to look at some of your newsletters that we have had recently come out, because you'll get also more of a sense of Danielle from looking at those. So welcome, Danielle. We're so pleased to have you here. Could I have the next slide, please? The other thing that I really want to talk about, without getting wildly specific, is just the impact of COVID-19 on the Little Traverse Bay Humane Society. I know that COVID has impacted all of our lives personally, and every single organization and business in our community, in the country, and in the world has been touched by COVID and the impacts that, the far-reaching impacts that COVID has had. We are definitely no exception. Danielle, with very little time under her belt as executive director, really had to quickly jump into operations along with Chelsea when COVID began hitting our community, and we had to make some quick and very thoughtful decisions about how we would handle the impact of this on our organization. I want to let you know that as the president of the Humane Society Board, I was so pleased at the quick action that was taken on the part of Danielle and our shelter operations staff to immediately think about how we could get the animals that were in our shelter on an existing basis out into the community to be cared for during an indeterminate amount of time, right? We didn't know how long the shelter would have to be closed down, how long it would not be able to operate. And we had lives, our animals, that needed to be cared for. Thanks to many of you, our members, who agreed to become foster families in short order, we were able to foster out all of the animals that were in the shelter in March when we closed. And many of you took on some tremendous commitments to take these animals into your homes, provide them with love, companionship, socialization, food, all of that. And our thanks are heartfelt to all of you. But I wanted to also acknowledge all the staff in both our veterinary area, our shelter area, boarding and grooming, daycare, everybody who had to make very quick changes in their personal and professional lives when COVID hit. I'd like to reassure you, all of our members, that we have done everything we can as an organization to keep our animals and our staff very, very safe. And we would like to welcome you back into the shelter with our new precautions. And we hope that soon we will be able to adopt out just as many animals as we have been able to do pre-COVID. So thanks again to all of you for that. Could I have the next slide, please? So, we've had many successes of the organization in the past year, and I was going to take the time to highlight some of those individually, but I think when you get an opportunity to see both Bill and Danielle's report following, I'll be able to make a closing statement about the success of the organization. So with that, I'm going to introduce Bill McKinley, and we're going to move into our detailed financial report to show you where we're at the Humane Society with our money and the contributions that all of you make to us. I hope you will see us as good fiduciary stewards for all of you. Bill?
Thanks, Gail. So for those of you that have been in the annual meeting, we're basically going to go through the same format that we historically have. And like all good not-for-profits, we really start out with what are our core program expenses? Because first and foremost, we're serving animals around our region. And so let's start with that, and then we'll figure out how we actually fund that expense. But for 2019, if you look at our core expenses, they amounted to a little over $1 million. The majority of those, 58.2%, were animal care and restricted fund expenses. Restricted fund expenses are things like Mutt for Manners and Spay It Forward and other programs. So they truly are a direct expense of running a not-for-profit. If we go around, and I'm going counterclockwise here, if we go around to our overhead, last year, approximately 23% of our expenses were overhead related, which is a relatively good number in comparison to other shelters and not-for-profits. It's actually a relatively low number. Continuing on around, last year we spent approximately $130,000 on fundraising. While that may seem like a large number, in reality, the vast majority of that are expenses related with the events themselves, not dollars that are going out to pay people, but the actual dollars for venue rental or food or beverage, et cetera. So, and that's really a profit center for us when we get right down to it, which we'll look at in the next page. Last but not least, our membership expenses last year were just a little over $27,000. So obviously the vast majority of our expenditures are utilized to take care of the animals and get them out into good homes. Danielle, if we'll go to the next one. Terrific. So how do we end up paying that $1 million of expenses? Well, not surprisingly, adoption fees, when people come in and actually adopt an animal, they really don't pay for the overall cost of that. As you'll see, our adoption fees last year only represented $64,000. So only 7% of our costs were paid for by the actual adoption. So how do we pay the rest of the expenses? Continuing around counterclockwise, you'll see grants represent about 21%, donations represent in total between the restricted and the general about 25%. Fundraising events, you'll see there last year we raised $244,000 through our fundraising events. And then last but not least, $177,000, that was from your dues, which we're very grateful for, and that represented about almost 20% of our revenue. So if you remember from the last page, we had about $1 million in expenses, and we were able to raise $900,000 in revenue. So we had a little bit of a shortfall, which is not unusual. And the question is, how do we pay for that? And if we jump to the next page, we'll talk about how we pay for that. Well, actually, before we do that, we'll maybe take a deeper dive here and look at the overall P&L for the shelter itself. Last year, you'll see that our revenues went up from $856,000 in 2018 up to $909,000 in 2019. Obviously, that increase in revenue allows us to cover more costs and do more of our mission, which is get the animals out there. If you look at expenses rose from $933,000 up to a little over $1 million. A large chunk of that was due to increased personnel costs. I think, as you're all aware, expenditures for labor has gone up dramatically in the last few years. Well, we went out and actually did a very detailed market analysis. We found out that we were quite under market in terms of paying our employees. And so in order to ensure that we retained our fabulous staff, we went out and raised our hourly and wages as well as our salaries, such that we could attract the best of the best. And we think we have, and we don't have any turnover, knock on wood, and it'll continue that way because we've got a wonderful, wonderful staff. We think really best in class, not only in this part of the state, but maybe even in all of Michigan. Jumping to the next page, we'll talk a little bit about how we try and cover that deficit. We really have two for-profit centers which we utilize to try and fund that. You'll see boarding, grooming, and daycare is a profit center for us. Last year we made $18,000, down a little bit from 24. But again, that was partially due to our wages, which have gone up. Our vet clinic is yet to be a profit center. You'll see we've cut our losses from 223,000 in 18 down to 118,000, and so we're going in the right direction. When we decided we wanted to build that vet clinic, we did it for a couple of reasons. Primary reason was we weren't able to get the level of service and care for our animals. Because we are doing such a large volume here, we really weren't, we were being uninvited to be customers of the local veterinarian services. So we really had no choice but to go out and start our own vet clinic to make sure we could handle the needs of our animals. Once we did that, then it made sense to let's go out and offer it to third parties and turn it into a profit center. And you'll see we've cut our expenses, needless to say, but we still have some work to do. But for COVID, we would have made a profit this year, but because we had to shut it down for a number of months, we'll probably lose a little bit of money again this year. But our goal is to make that profitable in 2021 and beyond. So that will add and help us to grow the organization and fund more animal programs. So we're excited about that. So if we look at the bottom line, oh, that's fine. If we jump to our bottom line, no, okay, Danielle, you can jump to the next page. So if we look at our core program loss for 2019, it was 94,000. We had net services, which was a net of the two services from the prior page, boarding and grooming and daycare, positive 18. We had net vet clinic expense of 118. So our income or loss from operations was 193,000. How did we, that's my dog barking, apologize for that. How did we cover that shortfall? One was bequests for 51,000. We had some capital donations last year of 1,000. We had some capital campaign expenses of 20,000. But the real big pickup last year was a very good and strong performing investment portfolio where we made 338,000, almost 339,000. So bottom line net income flat for last year, which was a great year for us, was 177,000. So needless to say, we were excited about that, and that really worked out well for us. Wanted to take a little deeper dive. I talked about our program expenses. You'll see here, these are the various expenses which we have, which go for everything from spay and neuter funds right down the road to our angel program, building funds, et cetera. And you saw that from that one chart on the first page. We had $73,000 of expenses last year, down a little bit from down a little bit from the prior year. So that worked out really well for us for 2019. We jump to the next page. We'll take a look at the balance sheet, and you'll see that we're a very liquid organization, well-funded. Our total assets are a little over 7.3 million, and our liabilities are very, very small at only 161,000. So needless to say, we're a very well-capitalized organization, and things are going incredibly well, and we're excited to continue forward. Danielle, our next page. So when we talk about our investment portfolio and why we did so well last year, you'll see our investment portfolio in 2019 at the year end was almost $3.7 million. And again, I said that our returns were 338,000 for last year. And if we look at the mix, you'll notice that we're very liquid. Our managed stock portfolio has been relatively conservative. We haven't really gone all in because of all the volatility that's occurred in the marketplace. But if we look at the actual returns for the portfolio, our equity portfolio returned 29.7% last year, so almost 30%. Our fixed income portfolio returned 3.9%, and our cash portfolio returned 1.8%. So our total return on our portfolio last year was 11.1%. So we're very happy with that return. Our targeted return is to beat inflation by 5%. So our targeted long-term return is a 7% return, and last year we were able to generate 11% because of the market comeback from the prior year. So needless to say, we were excited about that and hope to continue that on in the future. Next page. I think that's it for me, unless anybody has any questions.
Bill, thank you so much for
You're
that
welcome.
really detailed financial report. And it's nice to be able to present such a positive picture to our members today. So thank you so much. Danielle, I think you're on to talk about our accomplishments and some of your thoughts about the organization.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you, Bill, as well, and for the wonderful introduction as well, Gail. I just wanted to start by saying I am delighted to be here with the organization. It has been a crazy few months getting started, but it's been wonderful and rewarding, and I know it will continue to go that way. We are very fortunate to have a supportive board of directors that are very involved and engaged with the organization, and of course, an amazing base of members. And so I'm very much looking forward to continuing to meet our members, and please do not hesitate to stop by, come in and say hello when you get a chance. Obviously, I wasn't here with the organization in 2019 since I just got started in January, but I am thrilled to be able to talk about the accomplishments that the team has had over the past year. You'll see here on this slide that they rescued a total of 554 animals in 2019, 46 of which came through the Emmett County Stray Center, 228 that were surrendered by owners. That's within Emmett County. Outside of Emmett County, 240 animals were brought in by transport, and 40 additional animals were surrendered by owners outside of Emmett County. We took in 200 dogs, 69 puppies, 111 cats, and 175 kittens. And of course, we're in the height of kitten season now, so I expect we'll continue to see numbers like that for 2020. In terms of adoptions, we did 318 adoptions inside of Emmett County and then 217 outside of Emmett County. And I know personally from observing that lots of members are coming from outside of Emmett County as well. So we're very grateful for the support that we receive really from all over the country. And we continue to see visitors now that Northern Michigan is reopening. So please come on in. 185 dogs, 70 puppies, 119 cats, and 161 kittens for a total of 535 successful adoptions in 2019. I want to talk a little bit about some of the programs and services that we offer. One of the programs that's critical to the organization's success is made possible by the Jack Harris Spay Neuter Fund. This is something that was built long before I came into the organization, but continues to be a focal point, both from the perspective of controlling pet overpopulation and also for the health of the animals who we take care of. And so we were able to offer 81 dogs and 451 cats low-cost spay neuters. And so we will continue to focus on our efforts with low-cost spay neuters, and we will offer vouchers as they become available to continue to support that program. The foster program. This is something that I am personally really excited about. Gail mentioned in the introduction to the presentation that we had to quickly build a foster program. However, when I joined the organization, this was a priority. We had some very close families to the organization who would take in kittens throughout kitten season. And we had a few families that would occasionally foster one of our more difficult dogs. But we knew that this was a great opportunity to really build a sense of community and to build a very robust foster program. You might ask, why is a foster program important to a shelter? A foster program is important because it allows the animals time out of the shelter and for us to really understand their temperament. You know, an animal may behave differently in a shelter environment than they do when they're with a family. And so this gives them the opportunity to shine and really grow into the animals that we know that they are. And so with COVID hitting, as everything shifted in the world, our foster program goals grew very quickly. We had planned on a 6-month timeline. We had hired a new staff member who joined us from Best Friends Animal Society. And the goal was to build a program in 6 months. The team literally built our foster program from the ground up in 6 days. And I have to think that's a record time to build a foster program. And so within a few days of the stay-at-home order being enacted, we did successfully place all of our animals from the shelter in foster homes. I'm very pleased to say that many of those are what we term foster fails. And that means that the animals were actually adopted by their foster parents. In that bottom left corner, you'll see Clyde. He's one of our long-term residents. He went into foster several times, but he's still looking for a home. So if you're looking for a hound dog, he's your guy. Come visit us. Our pet food pantry, this not to be confused with the fabulous pet food pantry retail store that we have here in Harbor Springs, but this being a mobile pet food pantry that actually allowed us to support the community when they needed us most. And that really was in response to the Humane Society of the United States reaching out to us for help. They had been contacted by several individuals throughout Emmett County, as well as Sheboygan County, looking for assistance so that folks wouldn't have to surrender their pets to a shelter during this difficult time. We were able to work with some local organizations. Rough Life Pet Outfitters was a great supporter for us in helping us launch this program. And then the Meyer Corporation stepped in and helped make this program sustainable. And so we have fed approximately 330 dogs and 284 cats in Emmett and Sheboygan counties through this program. And it's been so successful that I thought it would be fun just to share some other numbers with you. We have distributed 156 bags of dog food, 113 bags of cat food, 222 cans of wet cat food, and over 50 bags and tubs of kitty litter. And this is a program the team is incredibly proud of. We feel it's made a real impact during a difficult time, but it's something that we realize could be sustainable and could help our community for a much longer period of time. So while we'll be taking the show off of the road, we do intend to continue offering this as a service and program to our community right here from the shelter. And regional rescues, I mentioned in the initial report early on that we did quite a few transports from outside of Emmett County, and many of those were from out of state, and we continue to do those as spay and neuter really is lacking still in the southern part of the country. And so we're waiting on a transport right now coming from St. Landry Parish, and we're working with the Bissell Pet Foundation on that initiative. That's something that Dieter started long before I came here and something we want to continue to be able to do. But we've also shifted our focus a little bit to regional rescues. And what we've realized is that we really truly are in a resource-rich position, and we're so thankful to have members who help us make these rescues possible. We are in a position where we're able to help, other shelters from Sheboygan County to Saginaw Humane Society, and right here, even in our backyard at Charlevoix Humane Society. So what we've been doing is really focusing on the region in terms of saving more animal lives. And you'll see in the middle there featured is Buster. And Buster is actually my foster dog right now. And he came from Sheboygan Humane Society along with 4 other long-term shelter dogs. He was at Sheboygan Humane for 8 months. And he's an 8-year-old dog. So you can imagine the difficulty that that had on him mentally, but he's doing fabulous. He's likely to be one of these foster fails and become part of my permanent family with my 4 feline friends who have taken quite a liking to him. We also took in 28 cats from Humane Society of Saginaw County recently. With the disaster in Midland and the flooding, the shelter in Saginaw County was completely overrun with displaced animals, and we were able to help relieve them by taking 28 cats that they had. This will continue to be a focus for us in the year ahead. And then we continue to save animals that are coming from cruelty or neglectful situations. I remember when I first moved here talking to people in the community telling me that we didn't really have the same kind of issues that I would have experienced in my old life at Michigan Humane Society. And I think that's true. Certainly I haven't come across any dog fighting here in my role, and I'm thankful for that. But we have come across some hoarding situations in the surrounding communities. And one of those happened the very first month that I was on the job. we were able to rescue 14 dogs from a hoarding situation in Carp Lake. And the little guy featured on the bottom left of the slide is one of those dogs. Very sweet range of dogs from 2 years old to 12 years old who came out of that situation. Our groomers took great care of them, and of course world-class vet care, and now they're adopted into very loving homes. We also were able to take in 3 beagles who were hunting dogs. They had never received any kind of training. They were kept outside in kennels, and 2 of them have actually already been adopted. They require a bit of training, but a little patience will go a long way. We still have a beagle available for adoption. She's a senior at 10 years old and very special needs, but if you'd like to meet Jackie, let us know. And then on the bottom right corner, you'll see Pomeranians, which is a little bit like getting unicorns in a shelter. And these Pomeranians came to us just this past week. And unfortunately, the woman who loved them and cared for them had passed away several months ago, and her family was unable to care for them, kept them locked in a small crate together. And you can see now they're absolutely beautiful. They're very sweet, wonderful dogs. They're all cleaned up and they're all available for adoption. So if you are looking for a Pomeranian, give us a call this week and we will set up a time for you to meet them. Of course, I got to talk about fun stuff, and I'll continue to do that, but I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your support. We literally cannot do the work that we do without the support of our members, and I really am looking forward to meeting each and every one of you, so please call, stop by, come visit me here at the shelter. I'd love to chat, show you around, and again, thank you. We really can't do it without you. I'm going to turn it back over to Gail to close out the meeting.
Thank you, Danielle. What a wonderful list of our accomplishments for the organization. You and the entire team have just been fabulous, innovative, and really taking some of the best program ideas from around the country and implementing them in our shelter, as well as creating some of our own new innovative ideas that others duplicate. So thank you so much. I'd like to look at the part of our agenda now that's an open forum and ask for those who are present here, is there anything else that you may wish to discuss?
This is Lori. Nothing else to discuss.
Seems like those present don't have anything to discuss, but what I'd like to remind you of for those of you watching on YouTube is that you can get into the chat below, and if there's anything on your mind, please feel free to enter that and we will definitely get back with you. And to close out the meeting, I just want to reiterate a couple things that Danielle said. I personally would like to thank each and every one of our board members. We have a small but mighty board. Each individual lends a very specific contribution and approach and excitement for the Humane Society. Each person on our board is an animal lover, and everybody is overwhelmingly dedicated to the mission of the organization and to creating a place that all of you can feel good about. I'd also like to thank our staff again, Danielle, Chelsea, everybody on our team who contributes every single day to saving the lives of homeless animals. It makes all of us feel so good that we are able to present and provide to all of you wonderful adoptable animals, and to now, as Bill talked about, be able to provide excellent veterinary care for all of you. I would also like to thank our many, many, many volunteers to the organization, people who work on our events, people who fold our newsletters, all of the many wonderful people who help. And finally, a thank you, a huge thank you to all of you, our members. As Danielle said, we absolutely could not do it without you. We are in such a unique position to be able to provide this kind of shelter in this kind of way for our community. And we're so fortunate that all of you contribute to us by either adopting animals or fostering animals or providing monetary donations, which we always need, in-kind donations for our animals. It's really such a pleasure to be part of this wonderful organization. And with that, I will wrap up. Thank you for participating and watching on YouTube. And thanks to Bill and Lori, Danielle, Chelsea, and anyone else on our staff who was involved in helping us to get this Zoom setup done. Not our ideal situation, but we're so happy that we can still communicate with you. Thanks from the bottom of our hearts. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.